Hello folks and welcome to the Vertigo Tea Party, and let's try Galactic Civilizations 3. It's developed by Stardock Entertainment. It's been in early access for a while. It gets a full release on May 14th, 2015, so a day or two from the time of this recording. It's important to note you must be running Windows 7 or later, and it must be the 64-bit version of that operating system in order to play Gal Civ 3, as the cool kids call it. It does support single and multiplayer, has Steam achievements, trading cards, and cloud saves. So before we get into it, there is a tutorial, which is very important. I've actually had this game for a while, but with no tutorial, I didn't feel like I could do a good job because I have not played the other Gal Civs or Galactic Civilization games. Even though I like 4X, like Civilization, I've been meaning to play these, but I never had, so I thought this would be a great time to do so. So the first thing we're going to do is start a new game. I do have a saved game somewhere that I will be kicking into later on, but I wanted to show you what options you have when you start a new game. Now, Galactic Civilization 3 is a 4X game, which stands for Explore, Expand, Exterminate, and something else that has an X in it somewhere. Very similar to Civilization, Masters of Orion, those types of games. So you do have your choice of various races. There are, some pretty standard things like this is a very religious race, then there's a very economic race. This is probably my favorite. These are the purely robot race. They don't reproduce normally. They have to produce more units, which I think is a pretty neat differentiation for them. It does give you a little bit of history of them, shows you what they look like, gives you their bonuses and their negatives that they have. You can also create a custom race, which I think is pretty neat, because not only can you do that, you can actually choose a different picture, and I don't think it's implemented just yet, but I believe later on they're going to implement so you can actually use your own pictures. So if you wanted to make a grumpy cat race, a race of nothing but grumpy cats, you could actually give it its own little avatar. I believe they said they're working on that. Now, I don't know how this would work with the animated background. Maybe if you do it like a GIF or something. I don't know. But anyway, I think it's cool that you can do that. Again, you get, right at the summary, you can choose a logo, all that stuff. If you're into that. Now, normally I don't do that. You can also set your ship style, personality, all that, which again I think is really cool that that gives you that option. However, just for simplicity's sake, we're going to pick these guys. These are the economic race, one of the ones I usually go with in general. And we're not going to play very far. I again want to mostly show you the very beginning of the game. Galaxy size, a lot of options, anywhere from tiny to all the way to insane. Let's choose insane. Let's show you just how crazy this can get. Type, cluster, spiral, we'll say scattered. Galaxy options, star frequency, we'll say common. And again, planet frequency, abundant. We want a lot of planets, a lot of things to fight over. I can imagine a game like this taking a very long time. Habitable climate. I'm not going to go over every one of these options if you want to see all of them, but you can see you do have a lot of control over the various resources, how often the planets pop up, black hole frequently, things like that. That is all controllable. You can also choose the victory conditions. So you're like, you know what? I want to do this the hard way. No conquest. You can't do a conquest victory, which I don't know what would happen at that point if you just destroyed everybody else. I guess you could win in one of these other ways just eventually. But anyway, you can turn off the various victory conditions. Game settings, you can do difficulty, which again ranges from anywhere from random, which I think is good if you're probably a better player. Having the AI, like maybe some are very easy, but then some are crazy tough. Game pacing, research rate, again, more options that you can pick. Disable tech trading, I think is an interesting option because I'm not big into 4X. I enjoy them, but I'm not very good at them. I know a lot of people don't like tech trading because they feel like it can be abused. So this allows you to turn off tech trading. And this allows you to set up, who your opponents are. Let's add them. Let's just get everybody in here. And let's start, and let's just see how big this galaxy is. Obviously, we don't have a whole lot as a frame of reference. This is our first map that I'm showing you, but I do want to show you how it works as we jump into this. So far, I've been really enjoying it. Like I said, I haven't played any of the other Gal Civs, even though I have really wanted to. And we're going to just kind of skip past that. Just kind of tells you about your race. So you start off with a planet, a colony ship, which you use to colonize other planets. You have a construct. Wait, is this the constructor? No, this is a survey ship. Surveys will, like if you find some kind of anomaly or something like that in space, it allows you to survey it, and you'll usually get some kind of bonus like credits or something along those lines. Seeker, this is more of a scout. It doesn't have any kind of damage. We also have a shipyard, which is used to create our ships. So let's go through a couple basic starter turns so you get an idea what this is like. So, but this first, let's zoom out. Let's see how crazy this is. Wow. Holy cow. Okay, this is big. I haven't actually played on these sides of a map. Yeah, so this would take a very long time. This might be a fun multiplayer map for you and your friends if you want to kill about a year of time before somebody actually gets declared the victor. So anyway, here's our little solar system to start with. We're going to set the scouts. We're going to command you to explore. That's just going to tell them auto explore. That way I don't have to keep clicking everywhere. It's not so annoying to do. Now this surveyor, we are going to command them to survey. Again, this forces them to explore, and if they find something interesting, they will survey it. Now the settler, we don't really want to do anything. I don't like to do that. So we're just going to move him over here, and you can see it shows like how many turns it's going to take. It showed 2 when I clicked it, but because it moved immediately, now it's saying I've only got 1. But that's going to be my next turn, basically 1 more turn to get there. We do have one other planet here, and when we highlight it, it says a class 4. It's barely habitable. It's a world barely able to sustain life. I mean, we don't really have much choice because this other planet is dead. Most planets will be dead, and at least early on, you can't move to them. As you get better researches or more technology, you can move there and build it out. So first things first, we'll go over all the UI and everything, but again, I kind of want to just go through a basic turn to get started, and then we'll dig into the details of the UI, because I know a lot of people want to know how good the UI is. That is very important in a game like this. So let's click research. This is our little research assistant. Now here's the 4 areas of tech: expansion, engineering, warfare, and economics. Expansion, and most of these are pretty self-explanatory. Engineering is more of being able to explore space. Expansion is, I think, more like expanding your population. Warfare, again, that was pretty self-explanatory. Economics, trading, making money, again, pretty obvious. Now you can use this view, which works fairly well. It tells you how long it's going to take to research, and on the right hand side it tells you everything it unlocks, and it tells you what it leads to, and you can hover over any of these things and it will tell you what it does. Or you can switch to the tech tree mode if you like a more old school style. Uh-oh, I think I ran into a bug. Uh-oh, it's gonna crash. Okay folks, sorry about that. It actually crashed. Now before you panic, that's the only crash I've had. I've played this game on and off since going into early access for like about 5 to 6 hours. That's the first crash that I've experienced, so don't freak out too much. And I haven't heard other people having issues either. So of course, always do your research, but again, that was the only time I've had any technical problems with this game so far. Anyway, so as I was saying, you can switch to the general tech tree. You can't zoom out more, which I actually would like to be able to do here. However, one thing you can do is search. So if I was wanting to find out how everything with lasers, I could just search for okay, maybe I can't do it that way. But if I wanted to optimization, okay, so it looks like it only researches, I thought there was laser missile, maybe. Let's try a missile. Huh, okay. So maybe, I don't know how it's, oh, well, hold on. It was like, nope, it helps if you spell it correctly. Oddly enough, it cannot read my mind in my horrible spelling. You can see all the various different research here, and you can click on those to jump to them. That's pretty cool. Now, one problem I do have that I've run into personally is that sometimes I know what I'm looking to build, but I don't know how to build it. And even with a search, it doesn't help. For example, in a current game that I have, I want to build transports to transport my troops so I can invade another planet. And if I search for transport, the only thing that came up with transportation specialization, and I couldn't find anything related to this on how to actually build the transport. I don't know if it was something to do with my race, but that is like kind of a minor hiccup that I've run into. But I do like that you can see the tree view, because you can go ahead, I think, Can you not? Hold on, let me see if you can do this. Because I want to see if you can actually... It doesn't look like you can. Because in Civilization, for example, it's like, okay, I know I want ion optimization immediately. Well, as soon as possible. So I can just go ahead and click on that. And then it will automatically just go to that tree. So it doesn't keep asking me over and over as it researches new technologies. I don't think it's letting me do that, or is it? Okay, it is. It is. So we can click back up here. And we can see, all right, it's just picking this first. I do wish it would show you that's what it was doing. That I did pick this. And that was where it was going. But anyway... Minor I usually don't do that myself anyway. I usually do it a step at a time, but I at least wanted to show you that it was possible. And also down here you have this like ages. I'm not quite sure how that works. It always says current age no matter what. Oh no, I see. It says current age of expansion. I can read very well apparently. But I guess you just gotta progress to the ages. I don't know how that works. I'm a slow and not good player. So despite hours of playing, I never even got past the initial thing, so you'll have to bear with me. Anyway, so let's look at our setup here. Now this might be a little different than what you saw before because I did have to recreate the game. Now down here you'll see the next thing we have is idle colony. Well, we can click on this, or thankfully if we hit tab, it automatically defaults to whatever is next. So if we have an idle ship or idle colony, it automatically jumps there. And there's not a chance that you've built something on this colony or this planet and you forgot and it's just sitting there unproductive. It will always tell you, which is great. So now, if you've only played Civ games, this is going to be a little unusual for you because generally with a Civ type game, and I'm going to compare this game to Civ just because that's the type that I'm used to. I'm not as used to this style. But you have to pick where you can build. Different planets have different alignments of these grids and different numbers. So obviously our home planet has quite a few. It also has this thing, Artocarpus virals? I don't have any idea. But it does help plus level to our population and plus 5% growth, which is nice. But you can't build anything on it, at least right now. So we want some research laboratories. So first thing we do is click a research laboratory. It tells us how long it's going to take to build. And we can click one time and it will kind of show you an outline of the building. So you might want to think, well, what's the point of that? Well, the point is sometimes building things next to certain areas will give you a bonus. So you'll notice that when I'm building to the right of this, which is a cataract, massive falls provide almost free energy for manufacturing or research. So as long as I build next to it, you can see I'm getting a +1 bonus to my research. So I'm going to build one here by double clicking. And you know what? I want to go ahead and build. I know I want research. Research is important. And if we build, typically, if you build more buildings next to each other, they give each other bonuses. So we build another one there. And these are all giving themselves +2 bonuses. And that's enough for now because we're not going to play that much into this. But you have other things like market to increase the money you make, a shipyard, or you can just turn your productivity into economic status. And let's quickly go over the UI. Again, this should be pretty standard for most 4X folks. You have manufacturing, which is, in a nutshell, how much work your planet is producing. And of course, to build things like buildings or... well, basically buildings requires work. And the more manufacturing you have, or work as I was calling it before, the faster you will build these things. So if I had 50 manufacturing, I'd knock these research laboratories out much, much faster. So obviously there's a bonus to doing that. Research, again, self-explanatory, how much research you're pumping out right now. And then once we get these research laboratories up, that'll be better. Net income, how much money you're making. And again, you can highlight this and it'll give you a rough breakdown, or it'll give you a specific breakdown of what is what's creating your income, what's creating your research, etc. This also is basically all the other important stats for your planet. Influence, I think influence affects how fast your borders grow. I'm not quite sure on this. So you help build influence improves on this world to help grow its influence more quickly. That's one thing I kind of do have an issue with, because sometimes these things, like again, influence, I'm not quite sure what this stat does. Again, I think it kind of helps to expand your borders in space, like how far you can fly, but I'm not 100% on that. And it doesn't make sense because you can expand that with space stations. So might want to check on that. Planet class, higher is better. Here's your current population, how much food you're producing, how much this planet is costing you in maintenance, your approval of your people there. Planetary defense, again, how well your planet defends itself. Now, resistance. At first, you might think, oh, that's bad. I've got a high resistance. You actually want a high resistance because this means if your planet gets invaded, it's how hard your people will fight back to keep your planet. And of course, it tells us that we have the capital here. Now, the first thing we're going to do, we start with a lot of money. So I want to rush this menu. I want to rush this laboratory. So we are going to actually hover by, and it says it requires 450 BCs, and we have 7,500. So yeah, we definitely want to rush that. We want to get our research pumping as fast as possible. We still have to wait until the end of the turn for that is created. We still have an idle ship, which is our colony, because I forgot to move it. Let's go ahead and tell it to go over here. I hit tab again because we had a idle shipyard, and we have the various ships that we can make. Now, this will definitely expand later, but it shows the name and how long it will take to build that ship. You can hover over it, and it will show you various things like the damage it can do, the shielding, any special abilities it has. Like, for example, this can construct starbases. And the first thing we're going to do, just because we're doing demonstration purposes, I'm actually going to build this, even though hopefully we'll get it'll get built a little bit faster. Down here is important, planetary sponsors. You have planets that sponsor the Starbase. And my understanding of how this works is that part of the manufacturing, or the work I was talking about before, part of that manufacturing feeds to that Starbase, helping you build ships faster. You can have up to 5 planets sponsoring the Starbase. And I think they have to be in a certain range. I'm not quite sure. I haven't really messed with that a whole lot. But you want more planets supporting the Starbase. Now, if you have multiple Starbases, then you got to split it up a little bit. But it does show you how much manufacturing per turn, 3.8. It's not super great, but right now that's the only sponsors we have because we only have 1 planet. Now, I do want to touch on... Anyways, let's finish this standard turn, first few turns, and then we'll move on to some of the more in-depth features again, so you can kind of understand what's going on here. Whoops, I a little over zoomed into the sun. There's also resources like this, Durantium. You can tell graphically they look different, and you can hover over it and they'll tell you. But if you zoom out, well, let's not go that far, but as you zoom out to the point where you're just getting mostly icons, you can tell there's different icons for different things. These little black circles are asteroids. These little things are just showing your ship. This shows space junk, which we should be surveying soon and getting something out of. Minerals, things like that. Now, out here we can't see anything yet because we haven't explored out there. But all of these little circles here are suns. So we want to go there because there will be most likely be planets there. So that was the last thing we needed to do. We now have an idle ship. You know what? Let's send the ship this way. Since this is where all the suns are, I think that would make the most sense. Oh, and I also forgot. We want to go back to the planet. I want to rush this laboratory as well. We want to get our research up quickly. So survey ship should be getting here shortly so we can see what happens with that. There we go. And now the first time you do things, you'll get this little cinematic to kind of show this is your first, first other planet you've taken over. This is the first, and an anomaly you've surveyed, things like that. So what do we get? The recent wars left debris fields scattered across the galaxy. This particular one yields a moderate collection of valuable ship components and rare elements after a thorough survey. Curiosity may often be dangerous, but it's also regularly profitable. We got 13 space bucks. We'll call them space bucks. We'll hit tab again, and this ship will go back to surveying. We actually have an artifact over here, so I'm thinking it will probably go over there by itself. Oh, there's actually stuff up here as well. Wow. There's a lot of stuff around for it to survey, which is pretty nice, actually. So let's wait. I want to at least colonize another planet. Oh, I forgot to go back here and rush another one of these. So let's go ahead and buy that as well, because again, we want to get our research up and going as quickly as possible. You can see our research progress up here. It shows you how many turns we have. Some other basic information, which again, we'll kind of go over that in a little bit. So we've rushed those. Let's go ahead and build, since we're marketeers, let's build free markets. I don't know if that's really the best thing to build right now, but we're just going to do that. And we're going to go ahead and just rush this one just because we can, since we're only playing this for a short while. 25% sensor range to all ships in the fleet. Now, I don't know if bonuses like this are like every ship forever or just every ship you happen to own right now. Probably every ship that you own right now, but it's not quite, I'm not quite clear on that. So we have you, an idle ship. I'm really hoping to find a world not devoid of life here soon. How about you? Nope, that is Thulium. Blast. Again, keep in mind, a lot of the places you'll find will have just dead planets. There's just nothing on them. We're only going to go about another turn or two just to see what we can find. Another debris field. We got treasury. Good job. Finding a lot of this Durantium, which is good. It's even better if we could find Durantium. See? Never mind. Anyway, so let's see. Was this done yet? No, we got a long way. 17 turns. So that's the very few first turns. We're having trouble finding a planet, but part of that, it probably also has to deal with the fact that we're using a huge universe that we're in, which I actually think this could be quite fun if you wanted to play like a more laid back casual game. I think this could be kind of fun having a huge universe like this. But that's the beginning. Let's hop into a map I already have so you can see a game that's just a couple of hours in, and we'll start digging into the UI elements a little bit more, because I wanted to wait until we were in an ongoing game, because some of the UI stuff isn't going to make a lot of sense until you see it in a more full perspective. It just crashed again, didn't it? Oh, there we go. Okay, sorry, I thought it was just taking a little bit to load. So here is a map that's been going on. It's a much smaller map. This, again, to kind of give you perspective, I think this was a small. So, and to give you perspective, this is roughly the size area that we started off with before. Much, much smaller, much more manageable. Now, this purple is me. I'm playing as the robot race. My home planet is Cybertron. And my other planets, Betonium and Galactus over here. I thought I had one more planet, but I do not. So let us start going over the UI a little bit, and we'll do a little bit of combat if we can find somebody to beat up on, and we'll kind of wrap it up once that's done. So first off, let's just, again, go through the UI here. First off, victory conditions. This shows you how far along you are in any of the victory conditions. First, you have conquest. Obviously, just wipe everybody out. Influence. Spread your cultural influence throughout 76% of the galaxy. And this tells you exactly what you need in order to win this way. Your cultural influence must still gain control of 66% of the galaxy, and you must hold control for 10 or more turns. This way you can't like cheese it and push it over just for a turn, just to get the victory. You can do a technology victory with several very high level techs that you have to grab. Ascension. You have to, there are these precursor ascension crystals that you find in space. You need to build bases next to them, and I'm going to cover buildings, bases, because that was something that confused me a little bit at first. Basically, you get those to ascend to a higher level, I guess. You basically have to capture and hold those before other countries, other civilizations do so. And a diplomatic victory, you must ally with 3 or more races to achieve an alliance victory. This might change based on how many races there are. This game, I think I only have 3 PC opponents. Victory options, you can change those as you want. So if they're about to win with alliance, I guess you could just turn it off just so you don't lose. Let's go to the govern tab. Now, here is where you determine how much, basically where your production is spent, whether it's on wealth generation, research, or manufacturing. Now, early on, I've got it 50-50 research and manufacturing. Since the game starts you off with a lot of money, I kind of wanted to spend a lot of this early time trying to get a leg up on the enemies because, like I say, I love these games, but I am bad at them. You can also change this as far as your manufacturing. I think what this does, and again, this is kind of one of my complaints about the game, is that somebody who's new like me, some of this stuff isn't quite explained all that well. I can kind of figure it out because, okay, this is probably, we talked earlier about planets sponsoring the star bases that build your spacecraft. This, I think, controls how much those sponsoring planets are giving to the base versus how much they're keeping for themselves. So for example, if my planet Cybertron is creating 10 work units or 10 production units, I can say, okay, give 90% of that to the Starbase or the starport, whatever it's called, because I need to build ships quickly because we're in a war. But only keep 10% for yourself to build buildings or whatever it is you're doing. So you can see here it's like social and military. I don't know why it's social. That seems kind of weird. But anyway, I think that's what that is for. We'll just leave it at 50-50 right now. This shows you our income from various things, tourism, trade routes, things of that nature. Shows you your expenses, which again is very important when you start losing a lot of money, which is usually what I end up doing in all of these games. This also tells you kind of a base. Here's your net weekly, which is -17, which is really great. And here's our overall money, space bucks. This shows all of our, oh, and I was going to show you real quick to adjust the spending. So let's say I'm getting low on money. I can move this back up to, oh, say we need to really make money. We're way ahead in research. We've got everything we need to make build. We can just kind of say, okay, I want way more wealth. Still research, but minimal on wealth because don't have many planets and we've built everything we need to do. So we can do that if we need to. You can also see down here, this updates dynamically. So now I'm making 20 space bucks a turn. Colonies, again, you can see all of them here. Gives you a nice brief overview, their class, populations, how happy people are, how much research, wealth, and production they're generating, and also what they're currently making. If you want to, you can double click it and it takes you to the planet. The blue outline shows you where things are going to be built so that you can go ahead and queue them up. You're not having to constantly go back to the planet. And again, this is just, some planets have these things that give you bonuses. See here, it gives us a 5% base research bonus, and every research facility we build next to it gives us a +2, which is really nice. So obviously you want to put your research next to that. We go over to commands. Now at first I didn't quite understand what this did. Now I do, and now that I understand it, I actually quite like it. So we can look at shipyards, ships, and planets. So let's look at shipyards. I've only got the one. Right now it's building this ship. So let's say you're in a war and you've got all of your shipyards building warships. Well, let's say they end up conceding or you end up beating them a little bit sooner than you want. So you don't need all those warships anymore. You need colony ships, tons of colony ships. So what you can do is say, okay, these shipyards that are building this should stop and start building these seeds instead. So now, and I assume you can basically say, okay, if they were building all the same types of ship, switch to this instead. If not, you could just go through each one and change them to seed or however you wanted to do it. That's pretty cool. You can also do this if you're sending ships. You can reassign things like that. That I'm not quite sure what the heck that does. Ships, like if they're on route, so like let's say you took a bunch of ships and you said go to this area, they'd all be lined up, I'd imagine, and then you could say, oh, no. Instead of going Cybertron, you need to go to Galactic because it's under attack. So you don't have to go find those ships and right-click them one at a time or however. You can kind of mass move them, which is pretty cool. This is also really nice for upgrades because a lot of times with other games like this, you're trying to find your units all over the map to upgrade them. Here you can go, oh, you know what? Every surveyor, I want to upgrade it. Or better yet, I want to upgrade every one of these APU MSs to APU BM M4s. Things like that. Planet sponsoring, if you want to switch to change them to sponsor another shipyard, you can do that. So that's cool. I actually would not have thought of that. I think that's a pretty neat addition. Trade routes, I don't have any trade routes right now. I was going to try to go to war early on, but because I couldn't figure out how to create transport ships, which you have to take over a planet, I kind of got stopped dead in my tracks. So people are kind of wary of me because I have several warships, but I can't actually invade their planets. Timeline, this kind of shows you how well you're doing versus other powers based on various things: population influence, faction power, military power, etc. Obviously, you want your military power at least scary enough so you're not invaded. The number one problem I tend to make in these games is like, oh, I'll make, 2 troops, and I'll keep those troops for years and years. And as everybody else is building up, I've got those 2 troops. And finally they go, this guy has 2 guys with pea shooters guarding his capital. We've got tanks and nukes. Let's go ahead and take that guy out because it's super easy. So this helps you keep track, so you're like, okay, I'm just scary enough not to be messed with. I'm tougher than this guy. Like the old saying, where the tiger attacks the 2 guys and the one guy stops to put on his running shoes, and the other guy says, hey, you're not fast enough. You're still not gonna be fast enough to outrun that tiger. And the guy says, well, I don't have to be. I just have to outrun you. So same situation here. I just want to stay strong enough not to be the one who people are going after. You can also split it up in the last 30 turns or all history, whatever. That's cool for those who really dig into that. So that was the Govern tab. Tech, we've already looked at, so you don't really need to go over this again. One interesting thing I found about the tech trees is there's general upgrades, kind of like how you would imagine they would work. For example, shield systems unlocks these 2 things and eventually leads to shield optimization. Pretty standard stuff. However, they also have optimization, and you can tell these because they have the 3 stars in them. These are... you have to make a choice, right? I can't get all 3 of these: rapid fire, low cost, and missile miniaturization. I have to pick one of these specializations. Either like cooldown and range increase, missile cost decrease, or missile mass decrease. You can only pick one. So I think that's interesting that you have to pick and choose, and you can't just get everything. So you have to kind of plan ahead of time how you want to do your strategy. And that's not just weapons, that's other things as well are set that way. So I think that's pretty neat. But we've already went over all of that, or most of that. Ideology. Now, sometimes you're going to get these random events that pop up. And let's say you get a planet event that says something like, we found a bunch of very small furry critters that are super cute and harmless, and they're just running wild. What do you want to do? You'll get 3 options. You'll get one option that says something along the lines of, oh, we should respect all life. So, ban the hunting of these creatures and just allow them to live on in their natural habitat, and don't build in some places just to make sure they're not disturbed. And you'll get a benevolent point and like +10 to science or something like that. Then you'll get a second option, which will say, well, let's allow limited hunting of these creatures and maybe allow people to use them as pets, but make it tightly controlled where people have to have a license to have it. And that will give you pragmatic points, but also increase in economics, right? Because you're selling hunting licenses. And then there's a third option you'll get that will say something like, let's exploit these as much as we can, get what we need out of them. So basically, you'll just hunt them maybe to the point of extinction, and maybe train them to kill and help turn them into murderous beasts like the Zerg. And you'll get malevolent points, and you'll also get bonuses to home defense because now they know to attack anybody else on sight, something like that. And again, that's just a complete example I 100% made up. But if the developers want to throw it in their game, that would be awesome. Even though my example is terrible. Anyway, so I've been going with malevolent because I'm going with a bunch of heartless machines. And you have these various trees, like basically sub-trees within the ideologues, I guess you could say. And you don't have to just stick with one. You can mix and match. I can pick one that's benevolent and malevolent. It doesn't matter. You can mix and match however you want. Now, obviously, if you want these higher tier stuff, you're probably going to want to stick with like one tier. Otherwise, it will take you a very long time to get some of these higher level things, because the events so far have not been happening a whole lot, though I think you control that in the options. But again, there's various things that these subtrees will help. This one is more military stuff, gives you a free frigate class ship. Every planet we conquer provides a permanent boost to approval, and then you have some like economic type things. That's the economic ones. These are production improvements, and these are, I think these are more like your influence. So they have a theme generally, like the military is up here, all the economics are here. So if you want to build a more malevolent economic empire, you can do so. Which again, I think that's really cool that you can do that. Just another layer of your strategy. Diplomacy kind of gives you a bird's eye view of what other people think of you and what you think of them. You can click on them or hover over the planets. The Terran Alliance, it shows their main base. Tells you what they like and what they don't like about you. For example, you're outside of our traveling range, which they like. We're weak, which they don't like. Your skill in diplomacy, which is actually pretty impressive because we're mean aliens, actually gives us a lot of pluses. We have opposing ideologies, which is a negative, and we have shared borders, which is a negative. So you can kind of... Also, you can see like how badly it matters if you're pissing them off. Like these people, you probably don't want to anger too much. They're pretty tough. These humans, not so much. They're behind you in where it counts, military power. You can also double click the icon to bring this up. You can go to war. I can't trade with them right now, so let's go back to her. We can either tell them we're going to go to war, or we can go to a trade agreement. Again, like a lot of 4X games, this is going to look familiar. We can trade text, things like that. Now, one thing I don't quite like is it can be a little tedious trying to find out what you can trade to make them happy. For example, right now, the way it stands, she says, if this is your offer, we thank you. It's very generous. AKA, we're just going to give her missile weapons because we're nice. Obviously, this will probably make them like us a whole lot, but we don't really want to give them free stuff. So let's say, let's try to trade with hyperdrive spec. Excellent, we will gladly take this offer. Let's try another one. Okay, I'm going to need a lot more to be interested. So it's going to take a lot of probably like back and forth to try to figure out exactly what's enough to give. On one hand, it allows you from metagaming it a bit. It's like, oh, missile weapons is worth 100. I'll, trade with you, and do the perfect math so you get 99 points, if you will, worth of trade, so that you're kind of, like I say, metagaming it a little bit. So I can understand why you wouldn't want to do that, but it can be a little tedious, especially when it comes to credits. So let's say you just need money. It's like, okay, how about this much money? All right, well, that's not a good example because she accepted it. You also can't take the money off the table, as far as I can tell, without changing it to 0, which, again, that's kind of tedious. You have to drop it to... How about that? Okay, you have to do that. I wish you could like right click it or have an X next to it to get rid of it. That would be nice, but not a big deal. Declare war on. You can ask them for colonies, which, again, if you played these games, they have to usually be in pretty dire straits before they'll give you a planet or something major like that. But make weekly payments. See, this is kind of what I show you what I'm talking about. Let's say I want something outrageous, 50 credits per turn. She's like, she must be joking. Okay, well, let's try, 45. Oh, are you joking? All right. So it can be a little tedious when it comes to credits. It's not a big deal. And generally, I prefer it doesn't give you an exact value. So, you can't say missile weapons is worth 100. I'll, min-max it just to get 99. Just enough. So that's fine. But I could see being a little bit tedious to go back and forth. But not a big deal. So we'll see that's all. We can also see these lines for trading, allied, neutral. I don't think any of us are allied or anything like that yet, so that's just not showing up. Treaty details, we don't have any of those. We do have United Planets, where you vote for somebody to lead it, and then things get proposed, like national or, have a holiday for a week straight, which increases people's happiness, and you vote on it. And if it passes, it goes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So we can also leave the United Planets, but I think, the other faction will be Angers. There's no coming back. So if you feel confident enough to, piss them off, you can do that. So that's all the diplomacy. Now, the designer, I'm going to touch on this a little bit. Actually, you know what? We're going to go back to designer. We'll leave that for last because I want to focus on the UI in particular as we wrap it up. We're wrapping up here just a little bit. So here we got the basics: money, growth per turn, which right now is 0 because I'm the robot race, and I don't have anything building more robots. I don't think. Overall happiness, the turn number. This tells you the resources we're gathering. Now, some ships and some things require specific materials. Once you've built that ship, at least as far as I can tell, it ties up that resource. So, for example, let's say this Durantium. I have a ship that uses Durantium. I built that ship. As long as that ship is not destroyed, that Durantium is tied up. In other words, I can't build anything else that requires Durantium. So I don't really... There's two thought processes I've seen with 4X games that it come to resources like this. One, they harvest X amount of that resource over time. So you harvest one Durantium every 10 turns. Something like that, and you can stockpile it, and if you need it in a hurry, you can build a bunch of ships that require it. The other method, which is what this game is using, is you use it, you tie it up. That ship dies, or you salvage it, or whatever, now it becomes available again to make something else. At least, as far as I can tell, that's how it works in this game. So yeah, because this is totally being used by that prototype ship. I don't like this method. I understand why they do it. It's so that you don't get it early. Well, one of the reasons is probably so you don't get it early and just harvest the heck out of it. And then once you get really nice ships, you just build a ton of ships with this really good metal and just obliterate everything. So I understand that. I don't hate it, but I prefer not. Anyway, this is Ascension crystals that we have. The general galaxy, we got some graphs of the various civilization, which you can see even on easy, I'm not doing very well. That's why the beginner difficulties are people like me. This shows overall power, which I'm actually a little bit higher than Terran, which is nice. Down here, we can see our colonies. We can see what they're making, how much money they're making per turn, overall happiness. Ships, we can see all the ships and what they're doing, their attacks, all of that, or most of that anyway. We see all of our star bases. We can see what they're doing, and I'll go over the star bases here in just one second. And I apologize if I'm rushing. There's a lot of stuff to cover, and I'm trying to cover most of it, if at all possible. Rallies, I've not really messed with. I think this is so that when a ship is made, it goes to that rally point. That's probably really good for things like when you're in a war, having your backup ships be sent to a specific location. Notifications, things like you've finished building this thing in this area, or you've discovered this, that will go there. So let's talk about bases real quick. I think I actually have a constructor. There's my surveyor. Where is it? Now, one thing that can be a bit tedious, especially if you're still trying to learn the race, is figuring out which ship is which, right? Because like just looking at this, I have no idea which one is the constructor. Now, as I play more, I'll learn it, but I wish you could rename the ships, the ship types, based on what they are. Just so, again, just mentally I know. Or some other way, like some universal thing that told me, oh, this is a constructor. So at a glance, I know, oh, this is a constructor. I can't remember what a YSS build M4-1 is. Does that make sense? Again, minor complaint, but it does get a little tiresome that I have to do that every time for people with really bad memories like myself. Anyway, so we have this antimatter. You can be used to build enhanced missiles and point defense systems, and it says specifically build a mining starbase nearby to harvest. So we're going to command, this is a constructor. So we're going to construct a starbase. We'll get a cinematic. Oh no, this is not our first one. And then we're going to double click it. Now, Starbases 1, I think, expands your territory. That's one thing on the borders I'm not quite sure of that I want to talk about in a minute. They expand your borders, I think. You can also build add-ons, or an add-on, I should say, an add-on module that will do various things. So a defense might like shoot at enemy ships that come into the area, things like that. Now, if you look under effects, you can see things that are in range of this base. So if you look, here's the antimatter, and it says building mining starbase nearby to harvest this resource. And we want to resource it, or we want to grab it So we're going to grab the mining ring, select it, build a Starbase module, or you can double click it. And I like the different modules look different as well. There's a lot of cool graphical things, like the different races have different ships. The ships and your various things just look different. I really like that. It's, again, just small touches like that I very much enjoy. It only takes one round to build this, but once it's built, we will be harvesting antimatter. We probably want to look out for that black hole. Probably not a great place to hang out. So that's the star bases. We went over the shipyards. And again, as you can see here, I have another starbase here. It's a mining starbase. Now you can rename these, I believe. Yeah, you can rename this. Where'd it go? Just because. And let me see if I can rename a ship that way. I bet maybe you can. Ah, you can. Okay, okay. So you can rename the individual ships. I don't think you can rename the blueprints, if that makes sense. Anyway, you can see we have the mining base here, and it actually builds this little thing on it, which again I really like that. Like that it shows that it's taken. So you again at a glance can see, oh, okay, we're mining from that, or the enemy is mining from that, or what have you. So again, you can kind of see the borders here. We're purple, blue is the Terran, and then this kind of what color is that? Teal? I don't know. I'm not good with colors. Is somebody else. So let's try to show a little bit of combat. So I've got a few ships here that just happen to be here. They're all grouped together. It was easy to group them. You just click on the same spot together. We're going to move this guy up. We're actually going to idle ship. We are going to hit spacebar. That will tell them to wait. We'll hit tab again. That'll end the turn. Is this an offensive ship? There's our first antimatter mine. We're going to click on that. It's very bright. Click on this. Bring them on here. All right, so now we have the 4. So now we want to go into the enemy territory. And again, see if we can get into a fight. We'll go ahead and accept this because, well, why not? But she offered just to buy some research from me. And I accepted it because I want her on my good side, especially because I'm about to go to war with our neighbor. Now, here's where we kind of have a problem, because like I said, this planet I should be able to take. However, I don't know how to make we're just going to have this guy explore. I don't know how to make transport ships to bring troops over. And you have to land a troop with you have to land a transport ship with troops on a planet to actually take it over. So you can blow up all the defenses you want. If you aren't able to basically capture the cities, you're in trouble. So we can see here, highlight over it, it's a constructor ship. Probably should not have sent this right at me. I'm going to attack it. Oh, I guess we weren't at war yet. We are now. So as you can see, this is just a constructor ship. It has no defenses. This is going to be an easy kill. Now you can do a quick battle and it'll just hash it out, which normally I would do because, again, this thing technically cannot even protect itself. We're going to go and view battle just so you can very briefly, if you blink, you might miss it, catch the fight. We're going to shoot missiles. Now, here's another thing that I wish they explained a little bit better. You have missiles, you have lasers, and you have kinetic, something like that. Obviously, we completely destroyed them because they had absolutely no defense at all. And you get to see it again here. Which again looks actually really good. Like it's pretty small, but it looks good. These ship designs are really nice, by the way. Like all the ships I've seen look really cool. But in particular, I like these robots. I like the really sharp kind of look to them. I think it's really neato, as it were. So we're gonna fly in here so we can get a little bit more trouble. But oh, actually, where are you going? This has a little bit of defense, but again, not really going to be able to defend itself. Now, as far as I can tell, there's no way for you to be able to actually control the battle in any way. It's just going to hash itself out. You can click on the various things and it'll show you, like, I guess, where they're going. I don't know. But it gives you the rundown. Again, obviously completely destroyed because there was very little there in the first place. And we'll just keep going. Now, let's go ahead and hit turn. One thing, again, that I wish they would explain a little bit better, because again, I would like to see more time spent on kind of teaching folks how to play. The tutorial does a good job of teaching the basics, which actually was absolutely helpful. I didn't read what she said. I think she was just saying some good things because we're trading now. She used to not like me. But in the tutorial was definitely helpful. But there's some things that I don't quite understand, and I don't even know where to look them up. Now, it is important to note they do have a wiki that is available, and I will put a link to that in the description. Oh, is that a transport ship? That's a trade ship. Now we can't have that. Luckily, the AI, at least right now, is pretty dumb, and it's just sending it stuff to get completely murdered. Ah, ran away for some strange reason. Now, if you look at this gray dash line that's going across here, maybe actually it might be a little easier to see if we... No, it's hard to see regardless what we do. Okay. When we highlight our ships, you can kind of see that dash line. Anything beyond that, we can't get out of. This distance is outside the fleet's range. I don't know what controls that. Are they upgrades that I can get with my ship? Are they things of research that we need to do? Do we need to outfit the ships with certain things to be able to allow them to go that far? Honestly, I'm not sure. I'm almost positive that taking planets will extend the range. And I believe that starbases will also extend it. But in something like this, where their planets are really deep in space, I don't want to have to build a starbase just so I can get over there, right? So I have to think there's a better way to do that. But again, I don't feel like it was explained anywhere on how to do that. And obviously, you know, the next place to be would be to look on the Wikipedia. But I wish there was something like the Civipedia in Civilization where I could search and find it. Like in game without having to go out. It's not it's not a big deal to have to go out. The game runs very well. I'm actually running it in maximize border or windowed full screen right now, and it's running at like 90 plus frames a second. So you know, alt tabbing and stuff should not gonna be a problem, but I would just prefer it to be in game. And again, maybe have the tutorial fleshed out a little bit more that will teach you those things. But again, it's things that I could probably figure out or just frankly look up and get it myself. So the last thing I want to look at here, one other thing I don't like that it doesn't do, at least that I haven't found, is it doesn't trap your mouse within the screen. So if you get it maximized windows, it's actually easy to click out of the window. But anyway, let's lastly look at the ship designer. Thank you folks who've actually stuck with me. I know this is a long video, but again, there's a lot to cover. And I'm trying to be as thorough as I can to give you a good idea how this game works. Now, this is pretty cool. This is one of those things that's, I look at it and I go, oh, that's cool, but I'll never use it because I'm not creative and I don't have the patience to like really min-max my ships. But I think it's awesome that it's in here for more creative people and people who really like to get in the nuts and bolts. So let's say we want to design our own ship. So let's just say new design. You can use base it off of an existing one, and then you can see the various ships that I have unlocked. Again, I really like some of the looks. And I actually did build one earlier, which I found pretty amusing, which I call the Tomahawk Chop. And I've got it like moving up and down. Obviously, it's ridiculous. There's no point for that. But I thought it was interesting regardless. Anyway, so we can say, you know what? Let's make a new design. And the type you build lets you know capacity, basically how big of a ship, how much stuff you can put on it. So let's go with like a normal small ship. I think you probably unlock bigger ships later on as you research. I think it's relatively safe to say. But you can kind of pick a base, and I think you can even go even smaller, like without any base and start from scratch. But again, I'm not creative as it is, let alone starting from scratch. So let's just pick one. This looks pretty neat. And you can just throw stuff on here. How did I do it before? I'm trying to remember. Oh, here we go. Now, this part that I'm doing right now is going to be cosmetic. So I can pick this, and the little red shows you where you can put stuff. This is 100% cosmetic. Oh, good lord. It just looks. Oh yeah. Very, very intimidating. You can zoom out, move it around, things like that. So this is just, you know, the stuff that makes it look cool. And, you know, all these little red points are where you can stick things. Oh yeah, that looks 100% viable. So let's go to equip. Now equip is the stuff that matters. These are things like the drives you want to use, armor, lasers, missiles, things of that nature that you can use. Now, you can build all this cosmetic stuff until your heart's content. I don't think there's any limit on that, any reasonable or unreasonable limit on that, because it's just purely what you want it to look like. Now that we start to look at drives and things like that, now it matters. So let's say I want an ion drive. Well, let's go with a hyperdrive. I just want bottom rung drive here. So we stick it wherever. And again, I don't think it matters at all where you put it. But once it's on there, you know, you get the hyperdrive, and it's going to affect the stats over here. If you watch as I'm putting stuff on there, that will change. It's like, okay, well, I want really good plating. So let's put titanium plating on here. We'll put 1 titanium plating on. And again, you can see at the bottom, you can see my weight going up. So we're at 33 of 57, so we're almost maxed. Also, you'll notice as I put more on, the manufacturing cost increases. So you can add more guns, add more armor, but it's going to cost you. It's going to take longer to build. Now, if you have a really good production, it might be worth it to build a whole bunch of behemoth ships. And lastly, we need some kind of attack. We can hover over these. It'll tell us what they are. Missiles, railgun, kinetic weapons. But again, see, this is where I would wish it would explain it a little bit better. Kinetic attack, very high rate of fire, but short range and marginal accuracy. So I guess this is where we see where the difference is between beam attack, missile attack, and kinetic attack. But lasers are cool. We're in space. We're going to go with lasers. So let's go ahead and put lasers on here. Do we have room for another one? Nope, we do not. We cannot put another one. It's too heavy. Now again, obviously you don't want to necessarily max it because it's going to take more and more manufacturing to make it. But this is our little baby. We are done. You can also animate things as I showed before. Like let's see, how does this work? So let's say I wanted to animate the plating for some bizarre reason. So we can make it bigger, smaller or bigger. Let's make it big. So it's scary. You can rotate it. Oh. Rotate it like that. So we can change the way it looks. We can move it. We can make it float above the ship, which I don't know what good plating will do if it's floating above the ship, but you can. You can also do the animations. You can say how fast you want it to rotate, either slowly or pretty quick. You can make it go in the opposite direction, and you can make it oscillate. Usually, there we go, oscillate. So this way it goes back and forth, just to kind of show you how that works. So it just goes back and forth, which is pretty neat. Again, you can also do it this way. Because again, that's what shields should do. So now it's just kind of ramming into the ship, which of course, again, is absolutely asinine. But it doesn't affect you in a strategic sense. And you just, make up really great looking ships, or you can just make flying penis ships, which is probably what most people are going to do. But yeah, I really love that this is here. But I also really like the fact that, because one or two other games that I've played like this with units that you could customize, they kind of lacked on giving you pre-created, and then they kind of force you to make your own, which I didn't like, because again, I'm not very good at it, and I don't really like to trying to min-max it. So I like that there's plenty of ships here for me to just say, oh yeah, this looks like what I want to make, and just build that. But I absolutely love this ship maker, and I love the absurdity of being able to just make these, huge and bouncing all over the place. I like the equivalent of the old school blink tab in old browsers. But I think that's about it. I think we covered almost everything. Also, one thing that I almost overlooked there, and you've been hearing in the background, is the music. So far, I've really liked the music in the background. It's just kind of soothing, especially being in space. It's always nice to have that kind of soothing music as you're brutally wiping all other civilizations out of existence. But that's a nice touch. I like that as well. Last thing we're going to go over is the options. Graphics, we're going to go over this pretty quickly. You can change the scaling of the UI, either small or large. VSync on or off, brightness, you can turn a bunch of things off. If you have like an older PC, you can turn off some of these things. You can has the preset performance, low or high, anti-aliasing, sound. And I say this every time, thank you for breaking up sound. I hate when it's like one sound slider for everything. There's sound effects, UI volume, and music, which is nice, or you can just turn those things off as well. Interface, you can do a lot of skip the intro. I've always Let's skip that intro. Cinematic. Other things. Clip cursor. Not sure what that does. Doesn't tell me when I hover over it. But hopefully they'll do that at some point as well. Gameplay, quick move, enable mods, which I haven't even touched the mod section, to be honest. I completely forgot it even had mods. But good on them for allowing mods as well. But yeah, that's a lot. And I feel like I still only scratched the surface of this game, really, with what I've seen. So far, I've actually quite enjoyed it. It definitely has that one more turn feel that these types of games are famous for. And I like the race customization. I like that you can build your own ships, even though, again, I probably wouldn't end up doing it just because I'm bad at it. But yeah, it's definitely a game that I would like to play more and kind of learn how to get better at, because again, I'm on beginner and I'm still not doing very well. But again, that's entirely on me for being bad at this types of game. But yeah, I'm definitely quite enjoying it. I completely forgot to check the price that it's going for. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. Professionalism at all times. It is $49. Basically $50. So yeah, there will also be a campaign, which I don't remember if I showed that or not, but there will be a campaign. It's not in the build that I'm using, but yeah, there will be a campaign, which I think is going to teach you more about the game as well. Probably that was my understanding of what was in the press materials. So that'll be nice. So maybe a lot of my questions will be answered in the campaign. There's also a Hall of Fame for like leaderboards. There's multiplayer. We talked about that a little bit. There's a quick start, which it looks like that's interesting. The quick start basically just randomly generates a race, and everything else lets you jump right into a game. That could be fun for kind of a quick thing. You want to just hop in, try it for a while, etc. But anyway, that is plenty of rambling on Galactic Civilizations 3. I definitely think if you like 4X games, definitely try it out. I can't compare it to the other Gal Civ games as I never played them, but I have definitely been enjoying my time with this one so far, and will probably play it in the future. So again, check it out. I will have links to the game in the item or in the description below the video. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you'd like to see more videos like this covering some games you may be interested in, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, leave comments, let me know what you thought of this video, and I will see you next time.